This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, a weekly broadcast that breaks down each Eagles game better than anyone else. The Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show is broadcasting live from the Great American Pub in Conshohocken and is heard on both 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM and is brought to you by SEPTA, Fogo de Chão, the Great American Pub, Independence Blue Cross, and Grand Café L'Aquila. We now go live to the Great American Pub in Conshohocken for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Domowitch and Paul Jolovitz.
And welcome, everybody, to the WBCB Monday Night Kickoff Show here at the beautiful Great American Pub in Conshohocken. This may or may not be our last show of the year. Eagles win. We're back here next Monday night at 6 o'clock and looking forward to it. A lot of people come out tonight. Jack is out. A lot of other fans are out to say hi to our guest, Paul Domowitch. It's the Eagles in Tampa Bay, by the way, in case you are driving or something like that and don't know about the other game. Buffalo leads Pittsburgh 21-7. Steelers just got on the board in the frozen tundra of the lake effect Buffalo. Domo, how's everything tonight?
Great. Playoff football. You got to love it.
Playoff football. Doesn't matter what you're going in on with a car that's chugging or sailing. It's all new now. We got a guy that has been in plenty of playoff games as our guest tonight. I'm sure he's been in teams that walked in going well and got whacked, and walked in sputtering and won Super Bowls. He won 2 of them, kicked for 112 years in the NFL, was an Eagle punter along with 5 other teams. We love him. Sean Landeta, thanks, buddy, for coming.
Great to be here, Paul. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Sean, let's just start with the obvious. Before we get to the Eagle-Tampa Bay game, before we get to the cold of the weekend, when we turn the page from the regular season to the playoffs, I mean, it's football. You walk out there, you're either home on the road. We saw couple upsets this weekend, couple games that went according to plan. Is it the same? I mean, there's no 110%, but do you feel differently in a playoff game, whether you're favored or not?
You know, you do. It's interesting. Once you get out there on the field, it really is, for the most part, like the game you played last week or 2 weeks earlier. But the build-up to it is bigger. You know, it's everything you've worked for all year, and everybody gets a little bit anxious. You know, I don't mean to say that that's nervous. You're just, hey, we're in the playoffs. This is great. This is what we wanted all year. And you try your very best in every game. But I just think maybe subconsciously, because it's a playoff game, you maybe even try a little bit more because, you know, there's a finality here. During the season, if you win or lose, you get to play next week. This isn't the case. You know, if you don't win, your season's over. And, you know, so there is a little bit of a difference there. But as I said, once the game starts, you know, like right now at this point of the game, these guys, I don't think are playing any different than they did in week 12 or 13 because once you're out there, you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like a game like the Eagles tonight with older players. You got guys that are not only thinking this could be their last game, could be the last game of their career because, I mean, a lot of them are probably thinking about retiring, things like that. I mean, it just you talked about the finality, and that's certainly
that's a great point, Paul. That is true. You know, as you do get older, you know, every year you got to make the team, but certainly when you're younger, you feel there's time left. Yeah. But as you do get older, you're like, you know, this might not only be my last playoff game, but the last one of my career. So, you know, even again, just another thing, maybe even subconsciously to, you know, remind yourself that you want to give your all. Not that you wouldn't, but you know, what's at stake.
All right, we're going to talk a lot about the game tonight. I'll say one thing for Tampa Bay, and then it's all going to be an Eagles show. Today is obviously Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, one of my idols on this earth. I Have a Dream speech, one of the great ever in the history of this country. His son and family are all honorary captains tonight in Tampa. Let's hope they have a great night, but the Eagles can beat them and send Tampa back and then go into Detroit. Guys, we've watched all kinds of game shows in our life. I've watched The Price is Right for 50 years. You've never seen on The Price is Right, you've just won a trip to Detroit. But that's what the Eagles are playing for tonight, Domo, that trip to Detroit, huh?
Absolutely, and they'll take it. I mean, it's you know, the Cowboys' loss last night has opened up some, you know, some opportunities for them if they can.
Did the Cowboys lose?
If they can beat Tampa Bay tonight, I mean, playing Dallas on the road is a lot more appealing. I mean, playing Detroit on the road is a lot more appealing than playing either San Francisco or Dallas, I would think, for them.
Sean, give me a year. You played 23 years in the NFL, one of the great punters ever, had all kinds of great teammates, but I'm sure you came in high on the hog, hot as hell after a hot close to the regular season and got whacked by some nobody. Did that ever happen to you?
Well, we always felt whoever we were playing in the playoffs was a good team. Even if their record wasn't great, it was still a winning record. There were, a couple games that were really kind of heartbreaking. In 1989, we were a 12-4 team. We won the Super Bowl in '86. We ended up winning in '90 again. A lot of us felt that team in '89 was better than the '90 team when I was with the Giants. But, we had the first week off. We were ready to go, playing well, and the L.A. Rams came in and, really just took it to us.
The Flipper Anderson game.
Yeah, after the game, I tell you, it was one of the saddest I'd seen our great head coach, Bill Parcells. I'd never seen him that, despondent. And I know he felt he probably had something to do with us losing. I don't believe that for 1 second. That day in that 3-hour window, they played better than us.
I was on the sideline for that game. 336 yards for Flipper Anderson, still an NFL record. You never know when a team or a player is going to go off. It's 1 and out, not 4 out of 7. Wake up on the wrong side of bed. It could be tomorrow's a golf day, huh?
Yeah, and then, again, fortunately, we lose 7 or 8 guys to that Plan B system, which was like free agency. And without them, we end up winning the next year. But that was difficult. And then another, heartbreaking loss was the year before I came here when I was with the Packers. We went out to play San Francisco, and, a heck of a game. And it was 4th and 15 from the 15 with about 5 seconds left. And somehow Steve Young threw a pass in between 3 of our defenders to Terrell Owens, who had dropped 3 or 4 balls that day.
Who?
And, we lost on the last play. So, there's, these playoffs, they really are magnificent a lot of times from the fans. Even like last night when it's a surprising blowout, you want them to be close, but there's part of that you like. But, boy, as a player, some of these losses, when you literally, it's opposite. You snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
Really makes your offseason real lousy. But I was very fortunate to be in a lot of those games.
All right, Dom. Well, the Eagles angling to not have an off season for a few more weeks. Nick Sirianni, in my opinion, coaching for his job tonight. We can talk about that and Jeffrey Lurie's reaction with the pool that's out there, the coaching carousel. But let's think optimistic for a change. Eagles Week 3 in Tampa Bay win 25-11. They run for 201 yards. DeAndre Swift runs well. They do a lot of things correctly. They handle the blitz. Tampa Bay blitzes almost more than any other NFL team. I think third most. Third downs, the red zone, all that. Throw it all into a hopper and tell me what they have to do tonight to try to replicate Week 3.
Well, I think first and foremost they've got to figure out a way to beat Todd Bowles' blitzes. They didn't look good against the blitz when they lost to the Giants last week. Wink Martindale just made Jalen Hurts and that offense look foolish. That's number one. Number two, they've got to. Baker Mayfield has played very well the second half of the season, but he's a guy that's capable of making mistakes if you can put pressure on him. The Eagles' pass rush has not been as good this year, nearly as good as it was last year. They have to, if they can put pressure on him, I think they can force some turnovers, which is something they haven't done much of this season. So those are two things I think to start. And then you had mentioned the run game.
Yeah.
They got to replicate that what they did in the Week 3 win.
All right, Sean. We'll also talk about the injury report. Baker Mayfield officially listed as questionable. To me, Missouri is questionable not to secede from the nation tonight as much as Baker Mayfield. Do you see any way, other than being hit by a car as he walks to the stadium, that he doesn't play tonight?
No, I agree with you, Paul. We all understand questionable for the most part means 50%.
Yeah, sure.
If it was, doubtful, I still think he would play, and I agree with you. But he won't be 100%. Same way with our quarterback. I know he'll be ready to go, but that being said, he won't be 100%. And be interesting to see what happens because, all it takes is one hit the wrong way, and especially if you have something going into the game, that can change everything.
Yeah. All right, Dom, Jalen Hurts, a lot of people are saying, and I'm going to say it right now, has to be the best player on the field tonight. Your quarterback tends to be the best player on the field in a winning playoff game. We saw Jordan Love yesterday. We saw Mahomes. We saw the whole weekend. Dak Prescott didn't quite live up to snuff, neither did Tua. Jalen's got the dislocated finger, had trouble throwing all week. He's got the knee problem. Is he on the same page with Brian Johnson? What does Jalen Hurts have to do tonight to simplify things, and give the best Jalen Hurts that we can see from him?
Well, I think the first thing his coaches have to give him a shot here, and they've got to play a lot of with A.J. Brown out. They've got to play a lot of 12 personnel tonight. I mean, a lot of 2 tight ends. Jalen's been very good throwing out of 12 personnel, and it gives them a better opportunity and a better success chance with the run if they're in 2 tight end sets. So I think that for starters, he's got to avoid turnovers. That's been his. That's what's killed him the most this season. I think he's got the 2nd or 3rd most turnovers in the league. So he does that. He doesn't have to be the best player on the team tonight. He just has to be efficient and make good decisions and make plays when they need plays.
All right, Sean. Receiver-wise, Devontae's coming back off a week off. Several Eagles are. Reed Blankenship, a game-time decision. Obviously, Sidney Brown out. A.J. Brown out. Jalen Hurts is going to throw to a guy who missed a week. Another guy who's out. We're going to see a lot of Julio Jones, a lot of Quez Watkins. You can't ask why. You can't ask how. Those are the guys that are there. How do they step in and make a difference?
Well, those guys, I'm sure they're all confident in their ability, and hopefully there'll be plays drawn up with them to get them in early because, like anything, we all understand, Brown being out, he's been the big guy. That's going to be a huge loss. But if early on these other guys can get a catch or two, there's no question I think that can help, them moving forward because, that you talk about, obviously, except for the quarterback, you wouldn't want anybody else out, more than Brown, and he is. So that's a big void to fill. Can it be filled? I absolutely believe it can, because those other guys are very good players. Even though they're not Brown, if the ball's delivered properly, they can catch it and make some plays.
All right, Damo, I got a question from a member of the audience tonight. Jack, who's with us, said to me before the show, why hasn't Josh Sweat played well the last 7 or 8 weeks? The defensive line got 70 sacks last year. They got 41 this year. His grasp of facts amazed me to begin with. But who on that defensive line? Obviously, Hassan Reddick. Fletcher Cox been the best defensive lineman all year. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. But what do they have to do to get the mojo back? Whether it's Matt Patricia, the whole thing about pulling Hassan back into pass coverage. What does Matt Patricia have to do to simplify things that can let the defense be as good as they can be?
Well, I mean, he's not going to blitz a lot. He's blitzed a lot less than Sean Desai. I mean, they're going to go with a 4-man rush. They just need to be better. I mean, Josh Sweat has pretty much disappeared the second half of the season. I mean, his numbers, his pressures are way down. I don't know if he's if they used him too much early and he's kind of run out of gas. I don't know if it's blocking schemes that are geared towards stopping him, but he's got to have a big game tonight. Hassan Reddick has to have a big game, and a guy who's got to step up is Jalen Carter. He's another guy that kind of about week 10 or week 11, he had a great early season, and then just kind of started sputtering. I mean, he's had some moments since then, but he needs to play big tonight. He needs to be the interior rush that kind of forces Baker Mayfield out of that pocket.
All right, Sean, I know you're going to watch the game afterwards and then be interested like everybody else. You know a guy down there with the Eagles among 5 other teams. You know a guy that when his door is always open for you to go to. Got a little fight with Dre Greenlaw, which I thought was way overrated and got banned for the rest of the regular season. How big a deal is Big Dom being back on the sidelines? Not X's and O's wise, not karma wise, but mojo wise. Is there any Eagles are looking to grasp any straws they can? Anything to Big Dom tonight?
That's interesting. As you said before, you'd say to yourself, he's not in uniform, he's not out there playing, so you wouldn't think it has anything to do with it, but you never know. Sometimes, that's one of those intangibles, something you can't touch or feel, but maybe somehow him being there, I don't know if there's things he says during the game to help guys get pumped up. I mean, my answer to that would be no. But let's see what happens. And for Dom's sake, who is a wonderful person, for those who don't realize, obviously I want the Eagles to win, but even more, if they win, hopefully, they can say, hey, we had our guy back. And as you said, you're grasping for things at this point, being 1-5 in your last 6. But, it will be good to see him on the sidelines there.
Any Damo rumblings in your world, Damo?
Well, I would put that about that number 1,000 on the list of things
that
they need.
Yeah, right.
But hey, if it makes them feel better, Go for it.
You know, the Vic Vermeil, great coach here in the years past, he had a line years ago which was, it kind of talks about that intangible thing. He said, if the players think that drinking pink buttermilk will make them play better,
Go for it.
then by God, get them pink buttermilk. And, I think that falls in this same
It's like that
category.
pickle juice.
Yeah,
Remember
absolutely.
We are
Right.
going to order pickle juice and pink buttermilk. They have that at the Great American Pub here in Conshohocken. Great food, great drinks, great atmosphere, great people waiting for a great game, hopefully. And, hey, if it's a straw you can grasp at, why not? This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM. We are back with Sean Landeta and Damo right after this. Come down and say hi to Sean. Stay with us.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
The cooler weather has its pest problems such as spiders, bed bugs, roaches, and mice. These problems can be fixed easily and inexpensively with termite proofing and pest control. Call now at 215-639-5455. That's 215-639-5455 for termite proofing and pest control of the Delaware Valley.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
We now return to the Great American Pub in Conshohocken for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Domowitch and Paul Jolovitz.
Welcome back to the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show live from the Great American Pub in Conshohocken. Don't forget, you can watch the show live at WBCBSports.com and YouTube Live by searching WBCB Sports. Sean Landeta is with us. Paul Domowitch, our co-host tonight, as the Eagles get ready. Damo, Tampa Bay, obviously not the weather problems that some other cities have had. Obviously the Steelers-Bills game is going on now, postponed this weekend. Buffalo leads 21-7. But the fans of Philadelphia are known to take over opposing stadiums. I don't think they're going to take Tampa Bay over tonight, but still a healthy contingent of fans on the way down. How big a deal is that for the Eagles?
Well, if you listen to what Darius Slay said this week, you probably hope that very few Eagles fans go down there.
Well, Sean, I got a question for you about Darius Slay. Darius Slay was upset about the boos at home. Isn't it the team's responsibility to get the fans to cheer and not the opposite, as Mr. Slay seems to think?
No, I totally agree with you. And, listen, no player ever likes to be booed or hear about it. But that being said, you have to understand, especially as a veteran, if you don't play well, they're going to boo.
Yeah.
They want you to play
Simple,
well.
Right?
And it's beyond me why he would make that statement because, there's nothing for him to gain from it.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're basically inviting a whole fan base to greatly dislike you. I mean, just can't understand why he would say that, especially as a veteran. And I mean, you can make a case, that this team's fan base cares as much or more than anyone else. If you want to don't want to insult anybody else, that's fine, but you can say at worst they care as much as anybody else. So, but very surprised to hear him say that, especially going into a playoff game.
All right, Domo, in the items said department, as Sean said, Dallas Goddard also insinuating maybe they took people lightly the last few weeks, 10-1. Obviously, you don't play like that. Lost the Giants, the Cardinals, almost lost the Giants again on the heels of the Cowboys and Niners shellackings. That's inexcusable. You got to take every team seriously. They're all NFL teams. Can they flip a switch? And if they did feel that way, how do you feel about, in general, their chances going into tonight?
Yeah. Bottom line is Tampa isn't a great team. So they're beatable.
No, they're an NFL team that made the playoffs.
They are.
Obviously.
But if of all the teams you'd like to play right now, they've got a chance.
Favorite.
But here's the deal. You look at Tampa. They lost 6 of 7 at one point. The difference is it happened earlier in the season. They were able to right the ship, and they finished strong, winning 5 of 6. The Eagles are. They did the worst thing you could possibly do. They were great for 11 games, but then they lose 5 out of 6, and they're going into the playoffs with no momentum, and that's really tough to turn that switch, like you said. I don't think they can do it, but I'm not going to say they can't win this game because I don't think Tampa's all that good. It's
important to respect your opponent, though.
Yeah, but it's Tampa, okay?
Yeah, it is.
You're right. They're in the playoffs, but what I'm saying is you're playing San Francisco. They don't even have a fighter's chance. They're playing Tampa Bay. If they play a clean game, if Jalen plays smart, makes the right decisions, if the defense can somehow, some way improve and get off the field on third down, they've got a chance tonight.
All right, got to attack the blitz. And Sean Landeta played on an area of football that was not so good last year with the Eagles and Michael Clay. It's been pretty good this year, Sean. Special teams. They bring Braden Mann in out of nowhere. He's been very good. Britton Covey's been excellent. Obviously, they got to create turnovers, win the turnover battle, blah, blah, blah. Special teams-wise, Sean, what can the Eagles do to give that little extra oomph, that extra pop, maybe create a turnover, field position, win the punting battle, Jake Elliott, whatever it is? What can they do as I spill my iced tea on special teams?
Well, any one of those things you mentioned obviously would be a big deal. And, the Eagles have the players to do it. Their kicker, punter, and punt returner are exceptional, 3 of the best in the league, and hopefully that can continue tonight. As Paul said, if they can get off the field defensively, it can be a little bit of a field position battle. They can really, use that to your advantage. Now, Tampa Bay has an outstanding punter. I know that. He's done a great job for him. But in a game like this, a special teams play quite often makes a difference, when you're playing a team and it's the playoffs, but all the things both of you said earlier, really hit home. All these teams in the playoffs are excellent, but I think anybody would agree that the Eagles are playing a team that they have a better chance of beating than any of the others, so we'll see what happens.
Sean, Braden Mann, interesting guy. He's kicked the hell out of the ball this year.
Terrific.
How does a guy like that get, 2 teams, he was drafted 6th round, I think, highly regarded, but he was with 2 teams that gave up on him, and, the Eagles get him, and suddenly the light goes on, and he's kicking the hell out of it. He's been consistent. It's just been he's been a great addition.
No, I agree. Coming out of college, Texas A&M, he was probably the best punter in the country. I thought he punted pretty well for the Jets. If you look at his numbers, he punted well. I know he had the misfortune of when they were playing New England up there, he hit a long punt that New England scored as time ran out, and they lost a close game.
Is that his fault?
I don't think so. They want to blame him, but he absolutely did a good job there. And then he was in training camp with Pittsburgh, and he actually outpunted their punter. But their guy, Harvin, is a guy they drafted and they have high hopes for, and they ended up to stay with him. Now, obviously, I think right now, if you'd asked them, they wish they would have kept Harvin. Because Harvin's kind of struggled a little bit. But Braden's been outstanding. He was in college, and if he's healthy, he should be here for a while.
Yeah.
All right, guys, give me a 1 to 10, from 1 being irrelevant, 10 being batting the hatches and call the troops. How important is A.J. Brown scrubbing the Eagles from social media this week? Coincidence? Problem? I don't want to deal with everything this week? Irrelevant? Where does that lie, Damo or Sean?
Right now, you mean? Or,
Yeah, just in general. You worried about that going in the game?
No. One. I don't know what's going on with him, but it's not. I mean, it's something they can worry about during the off season.
Sean, I know your social media is very active, kind of like AJ, tongue in cheek. Seriously, what do you think on that? What about this millennial players and social media ruling all?
Well, it's a different world. You know, I'm still back in the 1980s on so many things, and you know, I almost feel you know, that I'm missing something because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on. What else do they have? Twitter.
X.
I'm not on X. I'm not on Snapchat.
Snapchat,
so I guess I must be missing out. But, you know, they're nothing good about that. I agree with Paul to a point that once it's kicked off, that's not an issue. But for that just to be an issue all week, again, subconsciously, just another thing that the players have to hear from the media. And what do you think? And there's been a little bit too much internal stuff in the last 3-4 weeks, and that's not good at all. And you should be able to put it aside once the ball's kicked off. But sometimes it lingers. So, you know, again, there's so many reasons why if the Eagles can find a way to win today that it would button up so many things. And let's see if they can do that.
All right, Damo, from the ridiculous to sublime, a lot of people have been forgotten in the equation here. One of them, Matt Patricia took over for. If you're Sean Desai, who's still the title defensive coordinator, but that doesn't matter because Matt Patricia's calling the plays. We know about Nick's offense, whether he and Brian Johnson on the same page with Jalen. We'll talk about that in addition. But what's Sean Desai's role in this game? What do you think he's been doing, and how can he help the Eagles tonight in any way he can?
Well, I'm sure he's he's doing everything he can to help them. I mean, but he's just not. I mean, this is probably if they lose tonight, I can't imagine he's back.
There's going to be changes no matter what next year defensively, obviously, whether Nick loses his job or not.
I mean, he's been involved in the game planning, I'm sure. It was kind of a weird move, not only to take the play calling away from him, but then to keep him around. I mean, they could have fired him
very easily.
It's almost like they did with Howie when they demoted him back when Chip Kelly was here. They kind of moved him over and put him in charge of desks and chairs for a year, and then he comes back and becomes the GM. I don't know if they still think Sean Desai can be the defensive coordinator next year. I can't imagine he wants to be here after all of this, but we'll see. But as far as right now, he's helping during the week, on game day, up in the press box. I mean,
All right, Sean, I got a question for you. A lot of people here, none of us played in the NFL. You played for 23 years. You won 2 Super Bowls. You were on teams that had every kind of hot, cold, injured, healthy, banged up, whatever. Coach like Bill Parcells, a coach like Andy Reid, people say Nick Sirianni says this in pressers. Will there be changes in the offseason if he's not let go? Will he be let go? But you have the moments to the team meetings, the coordinators. But when the head coach has the balls by the hand and says, I got to do something to change what this team's focus is, give me something Parcells or Andy used to say, when you guys knew you were going south, you needed to pick me up. Guys are looking at each other. What do you think Nick's saying, and what did your guys say? Because a lot of people are very renowned for that you played for.
The thing that was great about Andy is he was so even. I don't know how many times, in the 5-6 years we were together.
Did he ask for nuggies?
No, he didn't. How many times he'd tell us to trust your skill, trust your talent, stay the course. Whether we won 2 or 3 in a row or lost 2 or 3 in a row, he was so steady. And Parcells was always a big motivator. He believed that, it's almost like disaster lurks around every corner. Even if things are going great, they can go bad really quick. So he was more like he never wanted you to think you had it made. I can remember in 1990 we started off 10-0, and then we came down here and lost to the Eagles.
That's when Sims got hurt.
But the headline the next day in both papers up there, the Post and the Daily News, in big letters, quote, Parcells, we're not that good. That was the headline.
That was another 10-1 team, by the way.
And exactly. And, we all kind of looked at each other and smiled because, that's Bill. I mean, we're not that good, really? We're 10-0. Of course, we're really good. But understanding he don't want us or anybody to think that everything's okay, because everything is okay, but if you don't keep doing what you're doing, it won't be, just like that. So 2 different ways, but, the same message.
Motivation is the key, and that's absolutely part of it. We'll talk about whether Nick is coaching for his job when we come back, the motivation, what Nick can say, what Nick can do. We'll talk about X's and O's, what we need to see happen tonight in Tampa. Do the Eagles have an edge in any way? Talk about Tampa, go around the NFL, see if Mike McCarthy has a riding mower if you need your lawn cut this summer. We'll talk about the coaching carousel when we come back with the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff here from the Great American Pub in Conshohocken. Come on down and say hi. We are back right after this. Stay with us, folks.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
Millions of Americans are losing their medical assistance or Medicaid coverage. If this affects you, Independence Blue Cross can help. You may be eligible to enroll in a health plan for as little as $0 a month. With Independence Blue Cross, you get the largest provider network in the area, including most Keystone First doctors and hospitals. We also offer free 24/7 telemedicine, coverage for hospital stays and prescriptions. See if you qualify for $0 health insurance and enroll today. Call Independence Blue Cross at 1-844-464-2583 or visit ibx.com/staycovered.
Pests are a year-round problem, but it only seems to elevate in the fall. Thankfully, termite proofing and pest control can help you out. TPPC will help you get rid of household pests like spiders, bed bugs, roaches, and mice. TPPC only uses EPA-approved material applied by licensed technicians. Call them today at 215-639-5455. Again, that number 215-639-5455 for termite proofing and pest control of the Delaware Valley.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
We now return to the Great American Pub in Conshohocken for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Domowitch and Paul Jolovitz.
And the Eagles tonight are 3-point favorites, 43.5 points to the over-under. If you're wagering on tonight's game, we're going to talk about Nick Sirianni in a second, but first I want to thank everybody here. This could be our last show, Damo. We never know. Hopefully the Eagles win tonight. We're back next week. I was with Chuck and Jerry today. I want to thank Chuck Hemsher, the owner of the Great American Pub, Jerry McGee, the manager, for being just gracious to us the whole year and giving us an unbelievable spot to do our show. That's for myself and Damo and Chris Summer, our producer, Gus Barber back at the station. This has been a tremendous place. Guy, the chef, has helped us out all year. Great place, this Great American Pub, isn't it, Damo?
Yeah, it's been a great time here every week, every Monday night.
And hopefully we have other weeks to come. Sean Landeta is our guest here. Sean, simple question. Is Nick Sirianni coaching for his job tonight? If it's a sloppy performance, obviously you have to wait and see what happens and how it happens. You can't do the what-if thing, and a guy's job can't hang on a maybe. But once the game's played, if the Eagles get whacked and it's sloppy, could Nick lose his job?
You know, I want to say no, but you know, you said let's see what happens. I mean, in a worst-case scenario, if it's a bad loss and the sideline, what we see happen on the sideline and what you hear happen in the locker room, I mean, it's not out of the question. I don't expect it to happen. You know, I think, you know, this game will be played well enough, win or lose, that, they're not going to do that because this guy just was in the Super Bowl last year. But, it's not out of the question. I'd say highly unlikely.
Damo?
Yeah, I'd say the same. Only one man knows, and that's Jeff Lurie. Looking at what he's done, you're looking at his history. I mean, he made a sudden decision with Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
A lot of that had to do with, he just felt that Chip's relationship with people wasn't good, and he just knew right then and there that he had to make a change. With Nick, I mean, we're talking about a guy he fired 3 years after he won a Super Bowl, but before he fired him,
Nick.
Before he fired
Doug.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before he fired Doug Peterson, they kind of took over control of a lot of the decisions from Doug, like his staff, hiring the people, making him bring in people, and I think that's what's going to happen here with Nick. If they make changes, it'll be at the behest of Jeff and Howie. They'll tell him maybe that he needs to do this or that. Then it's up to Nick whether he says yes or no. My guess is he says, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Howie's a big part of the equation. Should they prioritize certain positions? The defense, the middle of the field's been a problem. The salary cap, the whole free agency thing. Jalen's contract kicking in, although next year shouldn't be bad. It's a team that operates at the top, and we'll see about Mr. Lurie and what he thinks about the whole thing. As we look around the NFL, Dallas, I know we like to belittle Dallas here. I like to belittle Dallas. But taking it on an honest level, Sean, you never play with the Cowboys. If somebody says, should Mike McCarthy buy or rent in Dallas today, I'm going rent. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I was thinking about that after the loss, and certainly, this is 3-4 years now where they, haven't done what they should. Now, they've gone 12-5, I think, 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row with 12 that they haven't reached a championship game. There's a million other stats.
Yeah, and especially this shouldn't matter, but I think they were favored by 7 points or more. That hasn't happened.
Three times in a row they were favored by 7 or more that they've lost outright.
Yeah, so if he does, it can be understandable. He could sit him down and say, "Look, Mike, you're a good coach. You do well, but for whatever reason, we can't get past this hump. I feel I have the players to do it, and I think they need a different voice." So I think most people are expecting that will happen. I'm not sure, but I would say more than a 50-50 chance if you asked me that he will make a move.
Yeah.
All right, Damo. Any decisions you make in life, you have to look at all sides of the picture. And one side of the picture that's pretty clear this year says, what are the alternatives? Obviously, Bill Belichick, the greatest coach ever in a lot of people's minds, is out there. Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, if you want to fight for the stars, who knows? But a lot of people are out there. A lot of jobs are open. Bill Belichick's going to coach somewhere. Jim Harbaugh, obviously, an owner might think he's better than the guy I've got, whether you lost your coach or not. How much does the coaching carousel depend on where Belichick and Pete Carroll and others may want to go? And as it spins, both with McCarthy and anything else, anything Damoistic on your mind?
Well, I mean, the fact that Belichick and Harbaugh can be hired right away is going to kind of set the stage for everything else. I mean, a lot of times people, teams are waiting to see who, until teams are eliminated from the playoffs before they talk to their assistants. I don't think it's a lot's going to depend on that. They're going to go wherever they go. I mean, Harbaugh's got already scheduled to talk to the Chargers. Today. I don't know if he did today. Mm-hmm. Belichick, Dallas has been mentioned as a possibility. But I mean, somebody's going to reach out to him real quick here, and I think it won't be long before he signs with somebody.
All right, Sean, you and I are very good friends, as you're well aware of, and I've asked you a million times. Sean Landeta has a very close relationship with Bill Belichick. You played for him a bunch, both in New York and have known him for years, living in Jupiter, Florida, and the like. You've talked about him as a great guy. He actually had a press pass to the Eagle game one time from John Bon Jovi with I can't remember who. You'll figure out that story. But from what you know about Bill Belichick and what you know about his relationship with Jeffrey Lurie, if that's a possibility or anywhere else, tell everybody what Bill Belichick, the real human being's like, not the press conference Bill Belichick, and what do you expect him to do next year?
Well, I certainly believe he will be coaching somewhere next year. I believe he will. Obviously, personally, he is much different quite often than what you see in the press conference. Some of us that know him wish he would show more of that, but he's an all-business guy. Obviously, he's an A personality, and that works for some people, and a lot of people it doesn't. Initially I would say I don't know that. I wouldn't think that would work too well in Dallas because everybody knows that Jerry Jones wants to call all the shots.
Although he did have Parcells for a while.
Yes, he did. He did have Bill for 4 years, and from what I understand, Bill and Jerry in the last several years apparently have, become more friendly. If you want to say, in the owners' meetings and stuff, apparently they've spent more time together. Right. So, it'll be interesting because the guy.
What's Bill Parcells doing with the owners' meetings?
No, I was talking about Belichick.
Oh, Belichick. Okay.
When Belichick would be there, apparently, but everybody's really interested because things have to be a fit. An owner's got to feel good about a coach, and that doesn't always happen. But that will be very interesting because I was just telling Paul earlier, if I don't expect it to, but if something happens with Nick, and if something happens with McCarthy, which we think will. You're talking about 10 openings, which is just amazing.
You think you have a bidding war for Belichick, Paul? I mean, it could be Dallas, it could be here. Belichick is not a very good general manager. It's hurt in the last couple of years. If anybody knows I need a quarterback, obviously him with Brady, don't have to explain that. The situation with Herbert in San Diego, which may be Harbaugh or not. Is it going to be a bidding war for Belichick, and is somebody going to have to give him full control that doesn't want to get the coach, but have to take the general manager with it?
Well, he's going to have full control. I mean, there'll be somebody that he uses like he did in New England where he's got a personnel guy, but, I mean, he has final say, excuse me, over those decisions. I don't see – I think there's a zero chance here in Philadelphia. I don't know that there's zero chance Nick gets fired, but he won't be a guy that would be a good fit here because – he and Howie could not work together. I mean, I don't think, there's been guys that they've had job and they just weren't going to come here and work with Howie. They didn't respect him enough at the time. Now Howie's kind of absolved himself a lot and raised his I think there's more respect for him now than there was 5-6 years ago. But I can't see Bill Belichick coming here and having Howie be his personnel guy.
What's the perception of Howie around the league from former players and the like, Sean?
I haven't heard many guys talk about it. I mean, obviously he's had some pretty good success here, and I don't know how much the older you pay attention to that, but I can remember as a younger player, even though I read and paid attention more, so many guys around the league, you knew they were GMs, but you didn't spend. And today with social media and everything, you can see.
Big game. Beat the Rams. Pick. First win in 30 years. At home for Detroit. I mean, my buddy Joe Flacco got one in the country who really could have cared less, who thought maybe Detroit's history or lack thereof would tip him on the scales. Were you rooting a little bit for Detroit last night?
Yeah. There's some good stories there. Dan Campbell's a guy that you root for. And same, Jared Goff, was given up on in L.A. and it's
Goff and Wentz, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that Stafford, when he got hurt, it beat Goff and Wentz. That obviously didn't play
so it's kind of nice to see him be successful there. So yeah, I was rooting for him a little bit.
Sean, were you rooting for Detroit at all?
I spent 6 years with the Rams, so it's interesting as a player.
That's right.
You kind of root for teams and people, and I enjoyed everywhere I was. So. Tonight, obviously, I also played for Tampa Bay 1 year, but, I wouldn't want them to hear this, but obviously I played 5 years here and I live here. And, I love all the teams I played for, but, I was kind of hoping the Rams would pull that out. But at the same time, since they didn't, for the same reasons you said, so happy for Detroit, their head coach, and the people of that city. I mean, Detroit's a tremendous sports town.
Yeah.
I think there's only 11 or 12 cities that have all 4 pro sport teams. teams. Plus, they have two major colleges, Michigan, Michigan State, in a number of sports. I mean, that is a terrific sports area in this country. So, good for them that the first time in over 30 years they've won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Damo, either number one seed who's back in action this week, and Eagles can't play in San Francisco. If they do win, they go to Detroit, and we'll talk about nobody rooting for them if that happens the second week in Detroit. Does Baltimore and San Francisco have any more than a speed bump? Can Green Bay go through the Bay Area like they did through Dallas?
Well, I think Green Bay, I really don't think they have a chance against San Francisco.
None?
But the AFC games I like.
All right.
I mean, they're going to be two great
Depends
games.
on this game. We're not sure what happens. But assuming Buffalo wins,
Yeah.
then Buffalo hosts
Kansas City.
Kansas City, and then Houston goes to Baltimore.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, 3 of the 4 coaches in those AFC teams are going to be either Andy or former Andy assistants.
All right, let me ask you a question before we take a break. I mean, we saw Dak yesterday, just awful. Lamar Jackson's got a less of a playoff history than Dak, but he hadn't done much in the playoffs. You got Monken this year. You got the number 1 seed. You got huge expectations. You got D'Amico on a very hot Texans team with Stroud coming in. How much pressure is Jackson under this weekend, Sean?
Well, I think a lot of people, especially with the contract he signed and that whole deal of him holding out, and okay, we gave him the contract, and there's tremendous expectation the way they finished the season, especially some of the teams they beat. I have a feeling he's not really going to feel it. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. He goes out and plays, but from fans and the press, everybody expects Baltimore not only to win their next playoff game, they really expect them to go to the Super Bowl, and understandably so, because they've been so dominant, especially at the end of the year here. So, let's see what happens. I think he's a little underrated. The guy's been an MVP. You look at the numbers he's put up. You look at the number of wins he's had as a starter in the years he's played, and they're really impressive. But, again, in the playoffs, it hasn't been that way. So here's his chance. Here's his chance.
Yeah. That is all very fair. Damo, we'll go long on the last break because I got to ask you this now. Pressure builds up. That's without question. Pressure, the more you feel under the pressure, the more the expectations, and it's a cycle. And then some people like Dak Prescott are trapped in that vortex and hopefully will never get out. How does Lamar Jackson get out? I mean, obviously he's got to play well. If he doesn't, he knows the world is going to be on him. How easy is it to get out of that situation and reestablish your mojo?
Well, I mean, Todd Monken has just done a lot of great things with him.
Yep.
I mean, he looks like a different player.
Yep.
At least as a passer. A runner, he's always been a threat. So, yeah, I mean, there's pressure, but, I don't think it's going to be something that slows him down in the playoffs this year. I think they look really good right now.
All right, well, Eagles can get a home game if they win tonight, win against Detroit, and Green Bay wins in San Francisco. Then the NFC Championship game is Eagles and Green Bay. Otherwise, the Eagles are traveling. They're in Tampa Bay tonight. We'll talk about the game one more time as the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game, still 21-7. Seems like it's hit that cruise control in the third quarter.
21-10 now, Paul.
21-10, excuse me. They got a field goal, Sean. I missed that myself. It looks like Buffalo's in control. We'll see if Josh Allen turns into Brett Favre again. We are back with the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff from the Great American Pub in Conshohocken. Hopefully, we'll be here next week. Stay with us, folks.
Since 1991, the Great American Pub in Conshohocken has been offering an authentic and memorable experience for guests looking to dine in or enjoy the bar and nightlife. Located at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken, the Great American Pub has all your craft beer selections and some of the best food options anywhere. While you're there trying their buffalo chicken spring rolls or Maryland crab cakes, enjoy your favorite sporting events on their numerous televisions surrounding the bar. Visit them at 123 Fayette Street in Conshohocken or learn more online at thegreatamericanpub.com.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
The cooler weather has its pest problems such as spiders, bed bugs, roaches, and mice. These problems can be fixed easily and inexpensively with termite proofing and pest control. Call now at 215-639-5455. That's 215-639-5455 for termite proofing and pest control of the Delaware Valley.
Head out to Dion Square, located at South Oxford Valley and South Olds Boulevard, to get all your essentials in one place, with the following businesses ready to serve you: Pat Dion Beverages, CVS Pharmacy, Hair Cuttery, Smile Culture Dental, Biomat, Liberty Auto Tags, Pennsylvania Fine Wine and Spirits, Lee's Hoagie House, R&J Smoothies and Juices, AutoZone, and First National Bank and Trust of Newtown. Make Dion Square your one stop for all your shopping needs at South Oxford Valley Road and South Olds Boulevard in Fairless Hills.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
We now return to the Great American Pub in Conshohocken for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Domowitch and Paul Jolovitz.
All righty, Pat Mahomes called the mojo back. Hopefully the Eagles can do the same thing. Domo and I are going to talk with Sean Landeta about Nick Sirianni being himself on the sidelines. Don't try to be someone you're not. But for the Eagles to win this game and continue, Eagles have a lot of veterans who they brought back this year. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, who nobody expects to retire. Damo, could this be the final rodeo for any of these guys, and if so, who?
Well, I mean, you could start with Jason Kelsey. I mean, I think there's probably a real good chance, win or lose, that this is, these playoffs are his last. Slay and Bradbury, the problem is they've got a lot of dead money if they get rid of them, but, I mean, they're both, neither one played very well this season. But where do you go from there? They've got to find cornerbacks before they can replace them. Cox and Brandon Graham probably won't be back. This is a team that's going to be in transition after this year. I mean, I think they felt that they could make one more run at the Super Bowl, maybe win it, and then they were going to go to the point where, stack up your draft picks, get young, maybe even take a step back next year, but rebuild around your quarterback.
We'll talk about the draft and free agency, obviously, in many ways on WIP and other places. Damo will write about it. It'll dominate the NFL in the next couple of weeks. But Sean Landeta has an interesting point of view. Sean, I want to know, when you retired, how hard was it to give up a ghost? What kind of year the Eagles have? How hard is it to say goodbye? But another interesting thing that we've talked about a lot, explain to people with a salary cap and the rule that you have to pay vested veterans a certain amount, how hard it is for a punter specifically, because there's always young kids who are coming along, how hard it is when you have to get paid $1 million or $2 million to beat out a kid who doesn't. Explain that whole dynamic and talk about your last couple of years if you could.
Well, that really is a tough thing because, as you get older, as you said, the young punters today are as good as ever. And quite often you can go to training camp and win the job, but the young kid you beat out is still good enough to go with. He's still very good. So usually you would feel if you're the best guy, you stayed, but that doesn't always happen. And big reason for that, as you said, they have a veteran minimum. If you play 10 or more years, it's X number of dollars. They can pay the rookie much less, so that saves money on the cap. If you can do that with one player per position, you can save $6, $7, $8 million. Usually that all goes to the quarterback. But the guys you're keeping are still very good, and because of their age, they're going to be ascending. They're looking at you as a descending player. So I was very fortunate, the last 4 or 5 years I played, that they did keep the best guy, because a number of these guys I was in camp with went on to play in other places, and they could have kept them. So I was very fortunate, but it's something you worry about, as an older player.
How hard was it to hang them up for you?
For me, for me it was. It shouldn't have been, because I was so lucky to play so long. But the fact I could still play, but I was 45 years old, and most of the team said, "Look, we know you can still punt. Just stay ready. We're looking at the young guys." And if it turned out that I didn't play well, it'd have been easier. But my last year, my numbers were the same as when I was in my 20s. I think I finished, maybe 7th in the league, But I did understand the fact that they had to pay you more. You're 45 years old. You could get injured. And, this 23-year-old's very good, and we may want to go with him. So initially it was tough for a while, but I was very lucky to stay involved in the game afterward. the Eagles and the Giants are very good with their alumni, to use to do different things. But for a lot of guys, it is a beyond difficult thing because a lot of these guys are in their 20s and they can't play anymore.
All right, Damo, tonight, well said by Sean, Raymond James Stadium, Eagles win 25-11, week 3, 1-5. We know all the metrics going in, all the things they have to do, get ahead, blah, blah, blah. What do you think does happen tonight in Tampa? Are the Eagles alive after this week? Break down any part of the game. Is it close? Give us the Damo lingo on this one.
I've gone back and forth on this, Jolly. I look at this team. They've lost 5 out of 6. They've looked horrible. They've got a bad defense. I can't see how they can win. And then I look at Tampa Bay and I say they're beatable. They just have to do a few things right against this team to beat them. And I just have a sense that they're going to do enough tonight to beat them. I'm going to say 30-27 Eagles.
Sean, how hard is it tonight? And I want you to pick also, obviously, but some people have said, well, the Eagles play the Lions if they win. Obviously, the players think what the players think. It's not what the fans think. But if the players think, can we beat the Lions, they're going to lose to the Buccaneers. How do you avoid moving ahead in the playoffs in your mind?
I can only speak for myself, but I can never really remember in any playoff game any conversations during the week, whether it was in the locker room, the lunchroom, the workout room, of somebody talking about a week ahead. A lot of times if something doesn't work out the way the fans think they should, the first thing they'll say is, well, they were looking ahead. I can assure you that basically all the players, and if they're not, the coaches, are making sure that they're focused here because in the back of your mind, if you don't win this game, you don't play next week.
All right, so can the Eagles win tonight? Can they go to Vegas? Can they upset the apple cart? What are your thoughts?
Can they? Surely they can. Unfortunately, I don't think so for a lot of the reasons Paul said. I'm hoping they find a way tonight. I just don't know if they can overcome not having Brown. I mean, he is such a terrific player. You look in the first 10, 11 weeks how he was, and he was a difference in a lot of those games. Just amazing. So, let's see if they can put it together because as Paul said, you think of the Tampa team, and it's not fair to say, but you don't really feel scared about them. But
Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, Evans, Godwin, they got some players.
Really good players, and they're 5-1, and they're playing at home in a playoff game. So let's see.
The one thing in that first game that they did, we talked about it. They ran the ball very successfully, 201 yards.
Yep.
They controlled the ball for 38 minutes that game. That's what they need to do tonight. They just need to use that offensive line, which is their best asset, and just pound the hell out of the ball and control the ball.
Yep.
I mean, again, so unlikely to happen because it's so hard.
Yeah.
But if they rush for 200 yards tonight and hold the ball for 38 minutes, they'll win.
Let's do it. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the Eagles because I'm in Philadelphia, love the Birds. I'll pick the Eagles because I'm in Philadelphia. No other reason. Could go either way, but let's hope we're back next week. Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. We love having you on. You give great perspective. Good luck down the road, and let's have you back next year.
I look forward to it. Thank you guys so much for having me. Enjoy doing the show all the time.
Thank you very much. Damo, let's hope we're back here next week at the Great American Pub with Chuck and Jerry. Go Eagles, and let's have a nice little playoff run all the way to Las Vegas, right?
You bet.
We can hope. We can dream. Chris Irmer has produced this fine program. Gus Barber back at the station. To all the people who came here tonight to the show, we thank you for all year. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again next week. For Paul Domowitch and Sean Landeta, I'm Paul Jolovitz from the Great American Pub in Conshohocken. This has been the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. Enjoy the game, everybody, and go Birds!
You're listening to 4th